The meeting room on Station Harmony was built to impress. Tall windows showed the swirling colors of the Andromeda Nebula. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around a crystal table that cost more than most planets made in a year. The air smelled like exotic flowers from worlds humans had never seen. Admiral Sarah Cheen sat alone at one end of the massive table. She wore a simple blue uniform with no decorations. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat bun. She looked small compared to the aliens around her. The Zilani were twice as tall as humans, with 4 arms and skin like polished metal. The Korvax had tentacles instead of fingers and breath through gills on their necks. The Threks looked like giant insects with compound eyes that never blinked. Ambassador Kethver of the Zilani Confederation stood up. His 4 arms moved as he spoke, making grand gestures. His voice was deep and musical, the kind that made crowds listen. "Admiral Chun," he said, "we have called you here because the Galactic Council has reached a decision about humanity's future." Sarah said nothing. She folded her hands on the table and waited. "Your species has been in space for only 200 years, Kethver continued. "You are young. You do not understand how things work in this galaxy. We have been patient with you, but our patience has limits." The other aliens nodded. Some made clicking sounds with their mandibles. Others hummed in agreement. "The outer colonies you humans have built are invaluable systems," said Counselor Vextar, a purple-skinned being with 3 eyes. "These systems contain rare metals and energy crystals that civilized species need. You are wasting these resources. Your people barely use 10% of what these worlds can produce," added General Thokrau, whose species looked like walking trees with bark for skin. "It is inefficient. It is wasteful." Sarah still said nothing. She had learned long ago that silence made people nervous. Nervous people said things they should not say. Kethver walked around the table as he spoke. "We understand that humans are attached to these colonies. They are your homes. But the greater good of the galaxy must come first. The Council has decided to relocate your people to safer worlds, worlds that are more suitable for your kind." "And what worlds would those be?" Sarah asked quietly. "Garden worlds," Kethver said with what might have been a smile. "Planets with perfect weather. No dangerous animals, no natural disasters. Your people would be much happier there." Sarah nodded slowly. "I see. And what happens to our colonies?" "They will be managed by species better equipped to handle them," said Vextar. "The Zilani have experience with heavy mining operations. The Korvax are experts at energy extraction. Everyone benefits." "Except humans," Sarah said. The room went quiet for a moment. Kethver stopped walking and turned to face her. "Admiral Chun, I think you misunderstand the situation. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. The Council has made its decision. Your people have 72 hours to begin evacuation procedures." Sarah looked around the table at all the alien faces staring at her. Some looked bored. Others looked amused. A few looked almost sorry for her. "And if we refuse?" she asked. "Then the fleet will ensure compliance," General Thokrau said. His voice sounded like wind through dead leaves. "We do not wish for violence, but the galaxy cannot allow primitive species to waste valuable resources." Kethver sat back down. "Admiral, your people come from what we call a death world. A planet so dangerous that most species would die there in days. The fact that humans survived at all is remarkable. But survival on a death world does not prepare a species for the complexities of galactic civilization. Your people are warriors, yes," added Vextar. "But war is not the way of the modern galaxy. We have moved beyond such primitive thinking. The Council brings order. The Council brings peace. Peace through strength," said General Thokrau. "The strong protect the weak. The wise guide the foolish." Sarah stood up slowly. The aliens watched her with what might have been pity. Here was a representative of a species that had barely left its home system, trying to stand up to the combined might of the galaxy's greatest civilizations. "I need to contact my government," she said. "Of course," Kethver said. "You have 72 hours. Use them wisely." Sarah walked toward the door, her footsteps echoing in the large room. She paused at the exit and turned back. "Ambassador Kethver, may I ask you something?" "Certainly. How many ships are in your fleet?" Kethver's metal-like face showed what might have been pride. 847 vessels from 6 different species. It is the largest peacekeeping force ever assembled. Sarah nodded. "Thank you for your honesty." She left the room without another word. The aliens watched her go, already discussing how to divide up humanity's former territories. None of them noticed that Sarah Chun was not afraid. If they had been more observant, they might have seen something else in her eyes. Something that should have worried them. She looked satisfied. Back on her ship, Sarah sent a single coded message to Earth. It contained only 3 words. "Damocles is authorized." Across human space, people who had been waiting their entire lives for this message began to move. In hidden bunkers, ancient computers came online. In asteroid fields, camouflage ships powered up their engines. On colonies that appeared helpless, defense systems that had been built in secret for decades began their final preparations. The aliens had given humanity 72 hours. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this moment. For 72 years, Earth went silent. No transmissions. No diplomatic protests. Even the outer colonies stopped sending messages. The galaxy interpreted this as surrender. They were wrong. It was the calm before the storm. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of the Zilani flagship, Eternal Glory, and watched his fleet form up in space. 847 ships stretched out in perfect formation. The massive vessels looked like metal cities floating in the void. Their hulls gleamed under the light of distant stars. "Status report." Kethver ordered. Commander Velonik, his second in command, activated a holographic display. Points of light showed the positions of every ship in the fleet. Blue lights were Zilani vessels. Red was Korvax. Green was Threx. Purple was Cantor. Yellow was Valder. Orange was Nexus. "All ships report ready," Velonik said. "The Korvax heavy cruisers are in the front. The Threx carriers are in the middle. Our dreadnoughts form the main battle line. Support. Vessels are spread throughout the formation." Kethver nodded. This was the largest military force assembled in 300 years. No single species could stand against it. The last time a fleet this size had been gathered, they had ended a war that threatened to tear the galaxy apart. "And our target?" Kethver asked. "The human colonies are scattered across 7 star systems," Velonik explained. "Their main naval base is at a planet they call New Sydney. Intelligence reports suggest they have maybe 50 combat vessels total. Most are converted. Civilian ships." "Pitiful," said General Thokro, who was observing from the bridge. "My people fought wars with stone clubs that were more organized." Captain Zarethis of the Korvax floated near the tactical display. His tentacles moved through the water-filled environment suit he wore on oxygen-breathing ships. "The humans have had only 2 centuries to develop space warfare tactics. My species has had 20,000 years. Which is why this will be over quickly," Kethver said. "A show of force. They will see our fleet and surrender immediately. No one is foolish enough to fight impossible odds." The fleet began its journey toward human space. The larger ships moved slowly, but their size made them seem unstoppable. Smaller escort vessels darted between the giants like fish around whales. On the human colony of New Sydney, warning sirens echoed through the underground tunnels. Families packed their belongings and headed for deep shelters that had been carved into solid rock. Children asked their parents why they had to go underground. The adults tried to explain without causing panic. Maria Santos finished loading her 3 kids into the evacuation transport. She had been born on New Sydney and had never seen Earth. This colony was her home. Now strangers from across the galaxy were coming to take it away. "Mom, why do we have to leave?" asked her youngest daughter, Alina. "Because some people think they know better than we do about how to live our lives," Maria said. She tried to keep the anger out of her voice. The transport carried them deep underground to caverns that could hold the entire population of the colony. The caverns had been built when the colony was first established, supposedly for protection against asteroid impacts. Now Maria understood their real purpose. Similar scenes played out across all the human colonies. On New Perth, farmers abandoned their fields and headed for mountain bunkers. On Roosevelt Station, miners sealed themselves in underground complexes that could survive direct bombardment. On New Tokyo, everyone disappeared into subway systems that went much deeper than anyone had imagined. But not everyone was evacuating. Colonel James Mitchell stood in a command center buried 3 kilometers below New Sydney's main city. The room was filled with screens showing data from across human space. Men and women in military uniforms worked at control stations, their faces calm and focused. "Status report," Mitchell ordered. "All civilian populations are secure," said Major Chun, his intelligence officer. "The alien fleet is 2 days out. No signs they've detected our preparations. What about the other colonies?" "All reporting green. The sleeper systems are online and waiting for activation." Mitchell nodded and walked to the main display screen. It showed the approaching alien fleet as a cluster of red dots moving toward human space. The aliens probably thought those dots represented overwhelming force. They had no idea what was waiting for them. "Any word from the deep assets?" Mitchell asked. "Radio silence as ordered," Major Chun replied. But the scheduled maintenance reports all came in on time. "Everything is in position." Mitchell allowed himself a small smile. The maintenance reports were code. They meant that weapons and ships hidden for decades throughout human space were ready for action. On Earth itself, Admiral Sarah Chun sat in a bunker buried beneath the Swiss Alps. The command center looked like something from a history book, with old-fashioned switches and analog displays, but appearances were deceiving. This room controlled humanity's greatest secret. "Admiral, we're receiving the final confirmation codes from all sectors," reported General Harrison, the head of Earth's Defense Forces. Sarah looked at the main screen. It showed not just human space, but the entire galaxy. Tiny green dots marked the positions of assets that had taken generations to place. Some were hidden bases on asteroids. Others were weapons platforms disguised as space debris. A few were actual ships, camouflaged so well that even human sensors could barely detect them. "How long until the alien fleet reaches human space?" Sarah asked. 18 hours, Harrison replied. "And our people? All civilians are secure. Military personnel are at their assigned positions. We're as ready as we'll ever be." Sarah stood up and walked to a window that looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was coming to destroy everything humanity had built. They thought they were dealing with a primitive species that had gotten lucky. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "General Harrison," Sarah said quietly. "Yes, Admiral?" "Send the activation codes to all deep assets. It's time to wake up the fleet." Harrison's fingers moved across his control panel. Across human space and beyond, signals traveled to places the aliens had never suspected. In asteroid fields that looked empty, massive shapes began to stir. Weapons platforms that had waited decades for this moment powered up their systems. Ships that had been sleeping in the dark between stars opened their mechanical eyes. The aliens were coming with 847 ships. They thought that number made them unstoppable. They had no idea that humanity had been counting too. And humanity's number was much, much larger. The storm was about to break. The alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Admiral Kethver expected to see human ships rushing to meet them. He expected desperate radio messages begging for mercy. He expected a last-minute attempt at negotiation. Instead, he found nothing. Sensor report. Kethver ordered. Commander Valenak studied his displays with confusion. Sir, I'm reading no active human vessels. No energy signatures from their bases. No communications traffic. What about their orbital platforms? Powered down. Everything appears abandoned. Kethver walked to the main viewing window. The Sol system stretched out before him. He could see the planets in the distance, small dots of light against the black. Earth looked blue and white, peaceful and quiet. Perhaps they evacuated, suggested General Thokrill. Humans are known for their survival instincts. Captain Zarathis of the Korvax floated over to join them. My sensors detect minimal life signs. On Earth itself, most of the population appears to have gone underground. Cowards, said Commander Zektal of the Threx. His insect-like features showed disgust. They hide in holes instead of facing us with honor. Kethver felt disappointed. He had expected at least token resistance. A few small ships making a brave but hopeless charge. Some dramatic last words before the humans surrendered. This silence felt wrong somehow. Take us closer to Earth, he ordered. We'll demand their surrender from orbit. The massive fleet began moving deeper into the solar system. 847 ships in perfect formation, their weapons powered down but ready. The largest vessels were over 2 kilometers long, bigger than most space stations. They passed the asteroid belt without incident. The rocks looked like any other asteroid field in any other system. A few pieces of space debris floated among the stones. Old satellites and broken equipment that humans had abandoned over the years. Sir, said Velenak, I'm picking up some unusual readings from the asteroid field. Define unusual. Metal concentrations that don't match normal asteroid composition. But the objects appear to be junk. Old spacecraft parts, maybe. Kethver barely paid attention. Space is full of debris. Focus on our target. The fleet continued toward Earth. They passed Mars, which showed no signs of human activity. The red planet's small colonies appeared empty, their buildings dark and silent. This is too easy, muttered General Thokrill. Something feels wrong. You worry too much, Kethver replied. Humans know they cannot fight us. They made the smart choice. But deep in his mind, Kethver shared the general's unease. He had fought in 3 major wars. He knew what a beaten enemy looked like. This didn't feel like surrender. This felt like waiting. The fleet reached Earth's orbit. The blue planet turned slowly below them, clouds swirling over continents and oceans. It looked beautiful and helpless. Open a communication channel to the planet, Kethver ordered. Channel open, sir. Kethver cleared his throat and activated the fleet's broadcasting system. His voice would reach every human device capable of receiving signals. People of Earth, this is Admiral Kethver of the Galactic Council Fleet. You have 48 hours remaining to begin evacuation procedures. Our patience is not unlimited. Respond immediately. They waited. Minutes passed. No response came from the planet below. Try again, Kethver said. People of Earth, you will acknowledge this communication. Your silence will not save you. Still. Nothing. Commander Velenak looked up from his sensor station. Sir, I'm detecting movement in the asteroid field. What kind of movement? I'm not sure. The objects we thought were debris. They're shifting position. Kethver felt a chill run through his forearms. Show me. The main screen switched to display the asteroid belt. At first, everything looked normal. Rocks floating in space, just as they had been for millions of years. Then Kethver saw it. The debris wasn't debris. What he had thought were broken spacecraft parts were moving with Purpose, shifting and aligning. Coming together. "Those aren't asteroids," whispered Captain Zarathus. The objects in the belt were revealing their true shapes. Long, sleek forms emerged from camouflage that had fooled every sensor in the alien fleet. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of ships. "Sir," Valenek's voice was barely steady. "I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout the system. Not just in the asteroid belt, everywhere." The space around Earth's moon shimmered, and suddenly dozens of large vessels became visible. They had been there all along, hidden by technology the aliens didn't understand, near Jupiter. What looked like a small research station unfolded into a massive battleship. Around Saturn, the rings themselves seemed to come alive as hidden platforms. Revealed their weapons, but it was the asteroid belt that truly shocked them. The entire field was transforming. Every piece of debris was actually a camouflage ship or weapons platform. They had been surrounded from the moment they entered. "The system, how many?" Kefver asked quietly. Valenek's voice shook as he answered. "Initial count shows over 50,000 contacts. But sir, there are more appearing every second. The humans have been hiding an entire fleet among the asteroids." General Thokerel stepped forward, his bark-like skin pale with shock. "That's impossible. Our intelligence said they had 50 ships total." "Our intelligence was wrong." Kefver said that the human ships were not just numerous. They were large. Many were bigger than the aliens' own dreadnoughts. Some were so massive they defied belief. How had humanity built such vessels? Where had they gotten the resources? How had they kept them hidden? Captain Zarathus pointed at the main display with a trembling tentacle. "Look at their formations. Perfect coordination across the entire system. How many crews would that require?" The answer was becoming clear. The humans hadn't evacuated. They had gone underground to make room for their real military. The colonists. Hiding in bunkers weren't the fighters. They were just the people who lived on the worlds the fighters were protecting. "Sir," Valenek reported, "incoming transmission from Earth." "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was calm and familiar. Admiral Sarah Chun, speaking from somewhere on the planet below. "Admiral Kefver, thank you for coming. We've been waiting for you." Kefver found his voice. "How? How did you hide all of this?" "We didn't hide it," Chun replied. "We built it. Every asteroid you dismissed as space junk. Every piece of debris you ignored. We've been preparing for this conversation for 70 years. The alien fleet hung motionless in space, surrounded by more human ships than they had believed existed. The vessels that had seemed so large and powerful when they left Galactic Council space now felt small and vulnerable. "You have 847 ships, Chun continued. "We counted them when you arrived. We've been counting everything for a very long time." Kefver looked at his own fleet, spread out across space in what had seemed like an overwhelming show of force. Now, it looked like exactly what it was, a small group of ships floating in the middle of an ocean of enemies. "What do you want?" he asked. "We want to talk," Chun said. "But first, we wanted to make sure you understood who you're talking to. The human fleet didn't move or threaten. They simply existed, filling space with their presence. A reminder that the galaxy had badly misjudged exactly what kind of species called Earth home." For 10 long minutes, space was silent. The alien fleet floated motionless, surrounded by thousands of human ships that had appeared like ghosts from the void. Admiral Kefvu stared at the displays showing enemy contacts in every direction. The numbers kept climbing as more hidden vessels revealed themselves. "Admiral Chun," Kefver finally said into his communicator, "perhaps we can discuss terms." "There are no terms," came the reply from Earth. "You came here to destroy us. You brought the largest fleet in galactic history to wipe out what you thought was a primitive species. Did you expect us to simply disappear? We came to relocate your people to safer worlds." Kefver protested. "You came to steal our homes." Chun said, "Let me ask you something, Admiral. When your people first met humans, what did your reports say about us?" Kethver remembered those early contact files. They said humans were aggressive, violent, territorial. And yet you thought we would quietly give up our colonies because you told us to? The question hung in space like an accusation. Kethver had no good answer. "You made a mistake," Chun continued. "You confused being peaceful with being weak. Humans can be peaceful. We prefer it, actually. But we have never been weak." On the bridge of the Eternal Glory, General Thokrail moved closer to Kethver. "Admiral, we need to consider our options." "What?" "Options?" Kethver whispered. "We're outnumbered 60-1. Captain Zarathus floated over in his water suit. Perhaps we can withdraw, regroup, bring a larger force." "There is no larger force," said Commander Zektau. "This fleet represents half the military ships in the galaxy." Chun's voice came through. "The speakers again. Your officers are discussing retreat. I can hear the fear in their voices. Good. Fear keeps people alive." "How can you hear us?" Kethver demanded. "Because we've been listening to your communication since you entered the system. Your encryption is quite good. It took our computers almost 3 seconds to break it." The casual dismissal of their military secrets sent a chill through every alien on the bridge. "You want to know what we learned from listening to you?" Chun asked. "We learned that you truly believed we were helpless. You divided up our colonies before you even got here. You were already deciding which species would get which planets." Kethver felt shame burn in his chest. It was true. The Council had spent more time arguing over the spoils than planning the actual operation. "But here's what you didn't learn," Chun said. "You didn't learn about our history. Earth is a death world, yes. But it's our death world. For millions of years, everything on our planet tried to kill us. Ice ages, volcanoes, asteroids, plagues, predators with teeth like knives. The human ships began to move. Not aggressively, but with purpose. They formed perfect formations without any visible communication. Thousands of vessels moving as one. Mind, we survived because we learned to work together," Chun continued. "When the ice came, we shared fire. When the predators hunted us, we hunted them back. When diseases tried to wipe us out, we learned medicine. We never gave up. We never quit. We never stopped fighting. What do you want from us?" Kethver asked desperately. "I want you to understand something very important," Chun replied. "This conversation is being broadcast live to every world in the galaxy. Every species that sent ships to destroy us is watching right now." Kethver's blood turned cold. "What? Your home planets are watching. The Galactic Council is watching. Everyone who thought humanity was weak is about to learn the truth." On the main screen, data streams showed the broadcast spreading across the galaxy. Hundreds of worlds receiving the signal. Millions of beings witnessing humanity's revelation. "Now," Chun said, "let me show them what you came here to fight." The human fleet began its demonstration. It wasn't an attack. It was something far more terrifying. It was a display of perfect military coordination. Ships moved in patterns that should have been impossible. Formations that required split-second timing across thousands of vessels. The aliens watched in growing horror as humanity showed them what real space warfare looked like. "Your people have been fighting wars for 20,000 years, Chun said to Captain Zarathus. "But you've been fighting civilized wars, wars with rules. Wars where surrender is possible. We learned to fight a different kind of war. The human ships demonstrated weapons the aliens had never imagined. Energy beams that could cut through battle armor like paper. Missiles that moved faster than thought. Defensive systems that made their targets nearly invisible." "This is impossible," whispered Commander Velanek. "How did they develop such technology?" "By never giving up," Chen answered. somehow hearing even their whispered conversations. Your species conquered garden worlds and called it victory. We had to earn every day we stayed alive, the demonstration continued. Human ships showed they could move in ways that defied physics. They could coordinate attacks across light years of space with perfect timing. They could make themselves disappear and reappear anywhere they chose. You see, Chun explained, you made another mistake. You thought technology was about comfort, about making life easier. Human technology is about survival. Every system on our ships has one purpose: to keep us alive when everything else wants us dead. Admiral Kethver watched his life's work crumble around him. The Galactic Council's power was built on the idea that they were the strongest force in the galaxy. Now everyone would know that wasn't true. We don't want to conquer the galaxy, Chun said. Conquest is what weak species do when they can't build something better. We want something else. What? Kethver asked. We want respect. We want to be left alone to live our lives in peace. And we want the galaxy to understand that peace doesn't mean powerless. The human ships began to pull back, creating space around the alien fleet. But the message was clear. They could have destroyed every alien vessel in minutes. They chose not to. You have a choice to make, Chun said. You can return to your worlds and tell them what you learned here. Tell them that humanity is not weak. Tell them that we will defend ourselves. Tell them that anyone who comes to our homes with war will find more war than they can handle. And if we refuse? General Thokral asked. Then you won't be going home at all, Chun replied simply. The alien commanders looked at each other. They had come here expecting easy victory. Instead, they had learned that they were children playing with weapons they didn't understand, facing adults who had mastered arts they couldn't imagine. We'll carry your message, Kethver said quietly. Good, Chun replied. But understand this, the galaxy is about to change. The old rules don't work anymore. Strength doesn't come from how many ships you can build. It comes from how much you're willing to sacrifice to protect what matters. The human fleet began to fade back into the darkness, becoming invisible again. Within minutes, space looked empty once more. But everyone knew the truth now. Earth's children had grown up, and they were not going away quietly. 3 days later, Admiral Kethver stood in the same meeting room where this had all begun, but everything had changed. The crystal table was cracked down the middle. Half the alien representatives had fled back to their home worlds. The ones who remained looked like they had aged years in just a few days. Admiral Sarah Chun sat at the other end of the table, but she was no longer alone. Human officers flanked her on both sides. They wore the same simple blue uniforms, but now everyone in the room knew what those uniforms represented. The Galactic Council is prepared to discuss new terms, Kethver said. His voice had lost all its earlier confidence. There is no Galactic Council anymore, Chun replied calmly. 3 species have already withdrawn their membership. 4 others have declared neutrality. The Threx Empire is in the middle of a civil war because half their military refused to follow orders to attack human colonies. She was right. The galaxy was in chaos. The footage of humanity's fleet had spread to every civilized world. Some species were terrified. Others were angry at being lied to about human capabilities. A few were trying to make contact with Earth to discuss alliances. What do you want from us? Asked Counselor Vextar. His 3 eyes looked tired and defeated. We want the same thing we've always wanted, Chun said. To be left alone to live our lives in peace. Then why reveal your fleet? Demanded General Thokral. If you wanted peace, you could have stayed hidden. Chun leaned back in her chair. Because hiding doesn't work forever. Someone would have eventually discovered the truth. Better to control. How that revelation happened. She stood up and walked to the windows overlooking space. In the distance, human ships could be seen patrolling the edges of the system. Not threatening, but present, A reminder of the new reality. Let me tell you a story, Chun said. 200 years ago, when humans first developed faster-than-light travel, we were excited. We thought we would find friends among the stars. We thought the galaxy would welcome us. She turned back to face the aliens. Instead, we found species that looked at us like we were insects, primitives who got lucky. Some of you even suggested that humanity should be conquered for our own good. That was a long time ago, Kefir protested. Was it? Chun asked. 3 days ago, you came here to steal our worlds because you decided we weren't using them properly. How is that different? The room fell silent. None of the aliens had a good answer. We learned something important that day, Chun continued. The galaxy operates on one simple rule: the strong do what they want, and the weak suffer what they must. You taught us that rule. So you built a fleet to become the strong, said Captain Zarathus. No, Chun said firmly. We built a fleet to make sure no one could make us weak. She walked back to the table and activated a holographic display. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of points of light scattered across it. These are the locations of human assets throughout the galaxy, she explained. Ships, bases, monitoring stations. We've been watching you all for decades. The aliens stared at the map in shock. The lights covered nearly every major star system in known space. You've been spying on us, Kefir accused. We've been protecting ourselves, Chun corrected. After you made it clear that humanity couldn't trust the galaxy's good intentions, we decided to make our own security arrangements. Commander Zektal clicked his mandibles nervously. How many ships do you really have? Enough, Chun said. More than enough. She touched a control and the display changed. Now it showed not just human assets, but the fleet strengths of every major species in the galaxy. The Zelani Confederation has 12,000 combat vessels, she read from the display. The Korvax Republic has 8,000. The Threx Empire has 15,000. Together, all the Council species have approximately 70,000 ships. She paused and let that number sink in. Humanity has built 200,000 vessels over the past 70 years. Not all of them are warships, but enough of them are. The silence in the room was deafening. General Thokril's bark-like skin had turned pale green. Counselor Vextar was making soft choking sounds. That's impossible, whispered Kefir. The resources alone, would be impossible for a species that conquered garden worlds, Chun agreed. But remember, we come from a death world. We learned to use everything. Asteroid mining, deep space manufacturing. We built our fleet in the places you never bothered to look. She sat back down and folded her hands on the table. Now, let's discuss the future. You're going to conquer us, said Vextar. No, Chun said. Conquest is what bullies do. We're going to do something different. She activated another display. This one showed shipping routes, trade agreements, and diplomatic protocols. We're going to offer you a choice, she explained. You can join us in building a new kind of galactic community. One based on mutual respect instead of who has the biggest fleet. And if we refuse, asked Thokril, then you'll be left alone to run your little corner of the galaxy however you want, Chun said. But you'll do it without bothering anyone else. Because if you try to pull another stunt like this one, you'll discover that humanity has a very long memory. Kefir looked around the room at his fellow council members. They all looked defeated, but also relieved. They had expected destruction. Instead, they were being offered a chance to rebuild. What would this new community look like? He asked, like what the council should have been from the beginning, Chun replied. Species working together because they choose to, not because someone forced them. Trade based on mutual benefit. Defense based on protecting everyone, not just the strongest. And humanity would lead this community? Chun shook her head. Nobody leads it. That's the point. Every species gets a voice. Every world gets to decide its own future. No more councils deciding that primitives need to be relocated for their own good. She stood up again and walked toward the door. You have time to think about it, but not too much time. The galaxy is changing whether you want it to or not. You can be part of shaping that change, or you can be left behind by it. As she reached the door, Kethver called out, "Admiral Chun, why are you giving us this choice? You could simply take whatever you wanted." Chun paused and looked back at him. "Because that's what you would do. That's what the old galaxy would do. But we're not building the old galaxy anymore." She walked out, leaving the alien representatives alone with their thoughts and their fear. And their hope. Outside, human ships continued their patient patrol of the system. They were no longer hidden. The galaxy now knew they existed. More importantly, the galaxy now knew what they represented. Earth's children had grown up in the darkness between stars. They had learned hard lessons about survival and strength, and the price of freedom. Now they were ready to teach those lessons to anyone willing to listen. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time in a very long time, that felt like a good thing.